Welcome to this week's episode of Lifts. We got an exciting guest on, Anna, and I'll let you make an introduction first. But we had a brief chat off camera, and it seems though Anna is extremely up on everything wellness and health. And I was just curious, Anna, like what kind of events or media are you looking at or following at the moment that may not be on everybody's radar?
Right. Well, I'm huge on podcasts. Gosh, I don't even know where to start if I even memorized them, but I did listen to your latest episode, obviously. So I would say like categories, definitely podcasts. Yeah, I'm getting some interesting stuff through the kind of longevity channel, just on what's happening in health and science there. Yeah, I don't know. I could tell you like the podcast I've listened to for the longest, which is Sounds True, Inside at the Edge, which is more of like mind expanding type
Which one's that?
podcast.
What's that one called?
Insights at the Edge. And the reason I know the name is because they're one of the longest running podcasts. I think I started listening to it in like 2008, 9, when, like very early in podcasting. But yeah, no, a lot of health, wellness, fitness podcasts. And it's kind of the only media I have time for because I can do other things at the same time. As you know, I run an early stage technology company. So not much time for reading, really.
Have you heard that one, Mo? Have you?
I have not. I have not heard that one, but we're excited to have Anna on. But Matthew, before we get going, I have an exciting thing happening this weekend. We were texting about it on Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to you. I'm going to a music festival, the Palm Tree Music Festival in the Hamptons. So I've got to rub it in here because I know you're trying to ignore it and say that, but I haven't been to a music festival in about 15 years. And they're going to have Kygo, Sophie Tucker, Swedish House Mafia.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be awesome. So I am looking forward to it. I'm hoping I'll be able to fit in, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll send you some pictures, but I'm looking forward to that because one, it's like 93 degrees here in DC. It's going to be in the 70s and gorgeous out east in the Hamptons, and where you both are in the West Coast. It's always nice, right?
Yeah, by the sea, it's a little cooler. If you go inland, it's a little toasty.
It's a little bit warmer. Well, I want to introduce you, Anna, because a lot of our audience have not this is probably the first time they're hearing you and hearing of Sensate potentially. So let me do a quick intro. Anna Gudmundson has been a senior tech business leader in the international high growth sector scene for 15 years. Her present day focus is on transformational technologies that impact the world in a significant positive way while also having a strong commercial viability. As CEO of Sensate, a consumer stress management technology company, she is tackling one of the biggest challenges of our time, which are stress and mental health. So let's get right to it. How about you introduce the mission of Sensate and what Sensate is about for those in the audience who might not have heard of it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the mission is really, we have like a huge crisis right now with the vast majority of the population regularly feeling completely overwhelmed with stress and anxiety. And that isn't just like about how you feel when you're stressed and anxious. Every time we activate a stress response, we're actually suppressing immune system, suppressing digestive system and these things. So it's like directly impacting our health, our physical health, right? So, one of the things that motivates me enormously as my personal why is also that if we have a population that constantly activate the stress response, we're also suppressing, our conscious mind. We go into fight or flight where we really think from a very egocentric survival mode. And in that mindset, we can't really solve the problems we have, and we're not being helpful for each other, and we're not taking the actions that are good for us for in the long term, for our family or for friends, or for the planet. So it's really fundamental for me. I have a very deep sense of why I'm doing this. And so what's also fascinating is I think that my co-founder Stefan, who's the genius behind the product, he pioneered integrated healthcare in the UK for 30 years. I myself was based in Los Angeles, as we just discussed, and so it's using infrasonic. So it's a little hardware device of our first product that you put on the sternum and you put on your own headphones. You start a session in the app. The sessions are between 10 and 30 minutes. Thank you. And so what you'll actually feel, the infrasonic frequencies and near infrasonic frequencies that are vibrating through the chest, and they're harmonized with the sound therapy that comes through the headphones. So it's very immersive. And I think the reason why it's working so well is because we already, even alming in yoga, we get this, if we get the vibration into the chest area, we can activate the vagus nerve. We can feel euphoric if we do it for a really long time, but it's also obviously the vagus nerve controls the stress response. So that's really what it's aiming at. And I find it fascinating how well it's working for people that have no other way to self-regulate. And that's also something I'm very passionate about. And, people like have no way to calm themselves otherwise, don't meditate, find it extremely difficult to meditate, which a lot of people do, and really find that using Sensate is giving them that sense of calm. A lot of people also use it for sleeping or to get deep relaxation. Yeah.
I've been recently having a lot of challenges with my sleep, just waking up fairly frequently. And my guess it's got something to do with stress. I wear, people get fed up with me saying this, but I do wear an Oura ring, but it allows me to see my HRV, deep sleep and REM. And my scores of that for the last few weeks have been particularly bad. And my guess is that I'm thinking a lot. And when I wake up in the night, I can't get back to sleep because my mind starts going again. So is what you're doing here, is this something that you'd probably have towards the end of the day? And if you did do that, is that likely to improve quality of sleep, or less likely to wake up, or improve your HRV as an example?
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people use it before sleeping and find that they both fall asleep faster. We actually have significant improvement in falling asleep faster, and also sleeping longer or getting more sleep per night. So we're seeing those results. The product is actually developed primarily for using for stress and anxiety. That's why the sessions are between 10 and 30 minutes. So it's really interesting for us to see how well it works for people with sleep issues. Another common use case is people waking up and can't fall back asleep. And then it has two benefits. It's both that it actually helps a lot of people fall back asleep, but even if they don't, they get this very deep sleep-like relaxation by doing Sensate sessions. And then when they get up, they're actually more recharged. I use it personally on planes, long-haul flights, because I can't sleep on planes at all. And so then I get this very, very deep relaxation that actually on my Oura ring registers as sleep. I don't know that it does that for everyone, but I'm also used to, you actually get cumulative effect as well from using a product like Sensate. So I've been using it now for a while. So my nervous system recognizes as soon as I start. So I fall into a very deep relaxation quite immediately.
The health and wellness industry is on a growth path. I think coming out of the pandemic, a lot of consumers prioritized their health and wellness. They're spending a larger share of their wallet on that. Sleep is something that I think, from a demand perspective, the pandemic actually pulls forward, right? So as people were looking to improve their homes, we built a backyard, during the pandemic. A lot of people also invested in sleep technology. They said, well, I'm going to spending a lot of time at home. I'm going to go ahead and get the smart sleep mattress. Apple bought Beddit, a sleep app. H Sleep kind of got additional investment. And then all of a sudden, just getting a mattress in a box like the Caspers of the world wasn't so attractive. Now you had to quantify your sleep. You have a bed that is temperature controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew and I wear our Oura ring, and we kind of compare our Oura sleep scores.
That's right.
That's one. I think the other thing that kind of happened too is at least, within my circles, the idea of mindfulness and therapy and just talking about stress and anxiety, it no longer is like a badge of honor, right? We're no longer like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. And you're like, well, of course, we're all executives of our own company. But instead, it's more like, no, we should not be stressed. And even as executives, yes, we're always going to have a certain level of stress, but how anxiety can be debilitating. Anxiety could lead to a lot of other health issues. There is a difference between pressure and then stress and then anxiety and then all the negative issues that come through that. I think consumers are getting more educated, but from what you're seeing in Sensate and just from the industry more holistically, how has the, I guess, consumerization of sleep, of mindfulness helped tell your story and your journey?
Yeah, thank you. No, I mean, like, I'm sure all of us were kind of early adopters. I remember a time where you didn't really talk about work, about being a meditator. It was kind of a weird thing. And someone would come up and was like, I heard you meditate.
Yeah. Yeah.
can we go for a coffee? Like it's a secret thing that you were doing and you're kind of weird. So, it's been fantastic to see how this has all evolved. Some of the companies in the industry, Calm and Headspace. I mean, I think I've generated tons of like lifetime users for Headspace and things like that. And obviously it helps educate the market. It also gives hope, that there are ways to resolve. You don't have to feel like this always. And I think if there's one message that I would put like on a billboard, it's like neuroplasticity is real. Like I have made such enormous progress with myself. Like a lot of these behaviors and patterns that we think is just the way you are. I used to be a procrastinator. I'm the opposite to a procrastinator. Right? Like, so it's like all these things we can really change and reprogram. And I have enormously increased my stress resiliency. So I kind of just want everyone in the world to know that all these exercises, if you learn to meditate, if you work on yourself, you do self-development, if you work on self-work, whatever it is, inner child work, like however deep you want to dive, therapy, it works. It's not a pill. It takes a little longer, but it's kind of this lifelong journey, but every step is rewarding. So I think that all these different companies coming in and making it completely normal. And the consumerization, I think has been, in general helpful. There's always things where, the more you talk about it, there's some conversation about whether it's validating, and now people think that they're depressed, although actually they're just going through a difficult time. And there's always things that come with it. But in general, I think that it's a positive that we have the conversation much more open, that there are a lot of different solutions, much more accessible, that it's been destigmatized. And I think even more so actually for men, it's just been very stigmatized and supposed to always have your shit together and be strong. And, we're all humans, right? So I think there's, and also that this is kind of wellness versus where is the kind of mental health, which is a little bit more stigmatized, and then like actually mental wellness is a good thing, and don't we all want to perform better and so on. So I think that there's a lot of great product, and I really welcome the overall awareness and conversation.
The wait is over. Our new Escape Fitness catalog has landed. This is the essential guide to all of the latest product innovations that are shaping the future of functional training. Bigger and better than ever, this year's catalogue is 190 pages, jam-packed with everything from eye-catching, bespoke functional training frames to some of the latest strength training equipment. So sign up today to receive the digital version today. So what are you waiting for? Go to escapefitness.com now.
Where do you see the biggest growth in this area? Like we chatted before about the stress and the professional side of things and how this affects executives or can help executives. So I guess you've got this kind of mental performance angle could be one. You've got the people that are dealing with stress and anxiety, which is another one. But out of all of the different sort of segments that you could look at, which one do you see is having the sort of most interesting and fastest uptake?
So for us, I think the one thing that is unique actually for Sensate is that broad mass market of people with stress and anxiety. So we love the health hacker, biohackers, optimizers, they're amazing. And they're, also sometimes influencer to the wider audience, but it's a small group of people and frankly quite privileged in general, that we have the opportunity to worry about how to, just kind of optimize. There's so many people that are struggling to get by and really feel very overwhelmed on a regular basis. And for that really wide market, a product that is really easy to use, where people feel calmer from the first time and kind of really notice that the product works. I mean, we get love letters all day long. I think that is that's what I'm most passionate about. But yes, so the point is, if we go into actual improving vagal nerve tone through any kind of stress regulation, and obviously Sensate being one way, is so critical for the whole wellness continuum. Whether you are almost dying from physical disease, if you're constantly activating the stress response because you got poor vagal nerve tone, then it's going to be extremely difficult to recover, and any other interventions are going to be less effective, and you're going to undermine other interventions to general wellness, sleep, all of that, to optimization, right? Longevity, good vagal nerve tone is absolutely central to longevity. So for us, I think that the uptake in that really wide audience is what really warms my heart about what we're doing, because I think that there's, that's where people really have no other self-regulation tool.
I would say most of our audience is health and fitness executives. This is predominantly a B2B podcast. And in a lot of ways, as the industry, we're finding it a little bit difficult in how do we incorporate technology, right? Even a lot of us have Oura rings or other wearables, but we haven't really successfully integrated into our experience. And last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago at this point, Apple talked about the Watch OS 18 and all the fitness and wellness functions that are now going to be a part of that, including the new Apple's Vitals app, which is going to have, which is going to measure stress. It's going to measure training load. It measures your sleep already. Now you're going to get deeper insights. And I think two questions for you on this. One, how does Sensate really complement all the other wearables which are out there? You spoke about wearing an Oura, so you have an Oura ring and you have a Sensate. Would love to understand that and an Apple Watch. You have an Oura ring, Apple Watch, and a Sensate. And then how do you think that as fitness and wellness professionals, we could better educate our cohort and our member base to understand the importance of stress management?
I think it's happening, actually. I think it's both a really exciting opportunity for a fitness practitioner to actually look at the whole human. And also because it is now much more recognized that your physical performance is going to deteriorate based on stress and anxiety. So that link, I mean, like, it was even a surprise to me when we found out that the actors in the Barbie movie used Sensates. And you know why? For the skin. Because stress is really damaging for the skin, and they all needed to have this perfect Barbie-like glow. So, now the link between stress and general physical wellness, we also know very much about putting on weight is stress related, especially, around the belly and things like that. So I think it's an opportunity, but also for anyone who works and want to build a deeper relationship with clients, to look at their whole life. And so what we're finding, we have a lot of practitioners in the wellness space that include a Sensate in the program, because they can, and which makes the rest of the program more efficient. So if you're trying to eat better and digest better, well, you got to have a good vagal nerve tone. If you're trying to sleep better, well, you got to have a better, you see what I mean? Like, you have to manage stress and anxiety and sleep in order for other things to work out. So what we're finding, and we actually have we have an affiliate program, which we started because we got so many inbound requests. So we had wellness practitioners who said, listen, I found your product, it's amazing, and it's the one thing that I can get my clients to continuously use. I've already been recommending it. Is there a way we can work together? So I think it is an opportunity also, like, to actually engage and help people in the whole spectrum. And also because we actually have such high levels of stress and anxiety, it is it's a big part of people's lives. Again, like, ask about family. How are things, how those work? The rest of it is a way to engage, and then to have something that is a solution, I think is really important. And so in terms of how Sensate works next to all these things, Sensate isn't a tracker. Sensate actually helps you relax. So I think that's a huge distinction, and they're complementary. So we love when people send us all their amazing results and how they've slept better and all those things. But like, Sensate is a therapeutic device. It actually helps you relax. It's a general wellness product. So it's not a medical device because it just uses natural, frequencies for the body to relax. So yeah, there are lots of ways to integrate it. And, obviously it's wearable trackers is one thing, but if you want to sleep better, I actually think Oura Ring is a fantastic product. But if you take those interventions that you might learn from Oura Ring and you're not sleeping better, then at some point you need to change something else. And the changes can include, using a Sensate, for example, before sleeping.
One of the things I was going to ask you about is different places you can use this. And I guess it's a good opportunity to jump into, I guess, I'm not sure if it's our first story or our second story, Mo, but it's essentially Kohler, who I found out was they're an American company, that they're a kitchen and bath company. They acquired an organization called Clafs, or Clafs, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. I'm aware of Clafs. Whenever I go into Europe, you go to these nice spas, they have Clafs saunas. Apparently it's like the 5-star version. And it's quite interesting that this kitchen and bathroom company has acquired the Clafs, and it seems though maybe this is going to be part of they're offering when it comes into designing the perfect home. You'll probably have your kitchen and your bathroom, and then you have some sort of wellness space where maybe you have a sauna or something like that. So I was curious as it relates to that story, but are you seeing there being particular destinations that you would go to wear these? So is it something that you would take into the sauna and you would have that sort of complete experience, or would you just lay on the bed and do it on your own and not have any other interaction with anything?
Well, so our optimizers and biohackers, they tend to have it stack, right? So you can like lie down on a, I don't know, little spike mat and do whatever at the same time, or have your infrared light at the same time. Of course, like we just recommend that people find a place where they can really not be interrupted during the session, so they actually allow themselves to really sink into it. And so it's a minimum of 10 minutes long, and less than that, people are still kind of active and then like really settle into the deeper relaxation. I think I was also going to comment just on the fact that these kind of acquisitions are happening, but yeah, wellness is going in everywhere. It's going into tourism, it's going into hospitality, it's going into so many different places. So I think it's really exciting. It's really exciting for wellness practitioners. It's a huge opportunities, and I think becoming much more respected, even in like a lot of the sort of preventative health is really trending, which rightly should be what we consider health. So yeah, I think, Sensate, we just try to get people to relax, and you can certainly combine it. But, I just resonate with that in terms of, yes, it's going in everywhere.
How do you look from a communications perspective? Like you mentioned at the beginning about the biohackers, and they tend to now be this source of information, which, as you said, it permeates to the rest of the population. But there's also a lot of skepticism around some of these people and their methodologies. But they obviously get they've got the microphone, and that's what gets heard. Where you've got something that's very interesting, and I'd love to at some point know more about the science, but it seems as though there's some real measurable health benefits of using that. What have you found as an organization has been the sort of challenges or successes around getting that communication over in a real way? Has the research already caught up with that, or are you still, developing some of that yourselves? And is that going to take time before you can sort of, make some of these statements? Like, what does that whole area look like?
No, for sure. I mean, like that's the part, like in the biohacker sphere and like the cutting edge, they're ahead of the game, and like obviously a lot of things are criticized, and sometimes they're proven to be right and sometimes proven to be wrong, right? So it's just like it is a little bit of experimentation, and I think that people in the biohacking sphere are happy to experiment. And then but we're much more selling to a wider audience. But then there's also like, I think when some research is lagging, if you're not a risk taker and experimental person, this is so natural to the body. It's sonic waves. This is like, and I think we forget sometimes how magic also just sound waves are. I think it's I think it was Harvard. Anyway, it is a study that shows even like heart cells, how they organize from harmonized high frequency sound, and cymatics and how water organizes. So dissonance and harmony in sonic waves is very natural to me. I actually have studied signal processing, so it's not woo-woo to me. It's very tangible. And this is also like oming and yoga is thousands of years old. And so we're not doing something. Even I think that a lot of this electrical vagus nerve stimulation products are probably great, but you are shooting electricity from nerve endings into the center of the body, which is not something that the body naturally does itself. Whereas creating and getting the frequency into the chest and creating internal sound waves to tone the vagus nerve is actually what it's for. That is something we've been doing for thousands of years. So sometimes the research is there. We've done some. We haven't yet, because of what the stage we're at, spent all the money on medical device and all of that, because we are dealing with general stress and anxiety. There are certainly medical applications that might be something that we validate in the future. We have tons and tons of anecdotal feedback and beautiful letters from customers in that field, but we're not making any medical claims. So we're just talking about sleep, general wellness and anxiety, but we certainly think that there are other applications in the future.
Well, I'm sure as you grow, and maybe there's something we could talk about offline, but integrating the Sensate app for people that have a wearable like an Oura Ring or an Apple Watch could be the start. Maybe you and I might have talked about this, I think, a few months ago, but could potentially give you that data collection could lead into some more quantitative facts. And in fact, moving on to our next story here, perception isn't always correct. There's perception around, for instance, having steak, eating any red meat at any time is always bad for you, right? So there's all this perception. Now we're finding out that in fact there are benefits to red meat. In fact, it might be better than processed fake meat. And in this next article, something that and this was sent over by Matthew, which is surprising to me. I'm not a cannabis user. I think I've smoking cannabis or weed on 420 one time in college. Peer pressure might have been involved. And that was it. I just didn't have good experience. I've never smoked it ever again. But however, we have this perception in society that cannabis users are typically lazier and they just like to, smoke and just going to hang out on the couch and whatnot. So this new study on PubMed basically states that cannabis has been associated with reduced physical activity and increased sedentary behavior in adolescents. However, there's no such conclusive evidence. In fact, the studies have now associated cannabis use with an accelerometer actually shows moderate increase in activity. So a lot of, again, perception and what we think something is going to be is not always is. And what I've always said is the fact that, and I call wearables the third dimension, it provides this perspective and insights into something that we didn't really have a way of capturing. And to your point, in the yoga world, the sound has been practiced for thousands of years, clearly has had benefits, probably not placebo, and has real world benefits. But I believe that, the proliferation of wearables, and as more and more people get it, use products like yours, we can now quantify the benefits of that and hopefully use that quantification to gain more adaptation within the broader consumer world.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's a very exciting evolution. And it is, I think there are so many things right now that are up for question. I think we're reevaluating. And it was interesting thing to take into account. A lot of things that were established by people sometimes 100 years ago, concepts, right? And we have taken in more information in our lifetime that they did in their entire lifetime. So just understanding, some of this, it's a lot of things that are up for question and review. And I mean, it goes across, physics to the, periodic table, or there's so many things. It's a very, very fascinating time. And to really start to understand how we truly work, how the body truly works. And, I think one thing with all these generalizations, I think it's extremely important as well, which I very much welcome. Health is very individual. Red meat is bad for some people. It's really needed for some other people. Like anyone who says that something is bad for everyone, except if it's arsenic or, processed food, is probably not good for anyone. It is highly individual. So also that's also very data driven. We start to have much more sophisticated individual testing, and they're accessible. Inside Tracker, all these other guys, right? And then to be able to have much more personalized wellness, personalized fitness, personalized care, I think is also an extremely exciting trend, and which is driven by both science and the additional data capture.
How do you just curious, building on that last article, and I know, Anna, that you certainly seem as though you stay up to date with a lot of things. Like how are you seeing things that people digest to, because up until recently, alcohol has been that thing that people say, at the end of a busy day, I'll have a drink. And I think now the science is very clear that doesn't actually relax you. It doesn't actually reduce stress. It does quite the opposite. But there's a number of things, like you're in California, everything from mushrooms to cannabis is all legal and being used not just for recreation, but for also medical use in some cases. So how do you see that evolving? Because that's still relatively new. Even in America, like many states don't legalize that, but there does seem to be a lot of people talking about from a mental health perspective, particularly things like psilocybin and that. Do you think that is likely to have more of a play, not necessarily in your business, but just as Anna, as a independent consumer perspective?
Yeah, you're throwing some touchy topics there. Okay, no, yes, this is important, right? So I almost felt upset that I didn't discover CBD until this late, because for all the women out there, it's amazing for cramps. and I don't have to take ibuprofen anymore, which is great, but really bad for my gut. And like, why am I in my mid 40s when I'm finding this out? Because it wasn't available, right? So, I think, being in the US where, things are, some things are a little bit more politicized, I would say, to be mild. But I think there are reasons for the legalization. I think one thing that my partner and I have teenage kids in the household, and so it's interesting to realize that the cannabis that was around when we were young was weed that you smoked, and the synthesized substances that you vape is a heck of a lot stronger. And that we had, that's kind of our generation think that that's what they're doing, but that's not what they're doing. So just understanding the impact of that, and it's a whole industry which is banking on addiction, right? It's just banking on people getting highly addicted to cannabis and selling. So there are pros and cons with everything. I think again, everything in moderation. We're so likely to get addicted to stuff, and I think psilocybin can be amazing for mental health, but it's not something to take every day. It's to do with a practitioner, like in a safe space, and have a therapist that is trained on the topic. And similarly, cannabis, even for leisure, is not every day, right? That is called addiction. So I think it's just how we grow up as humans and manage to have both pharmaceuticals. I mean, it's like sometimes you need an ibuprofen. That's okay. Just don't take it every day. And so to have the availability, I think, is important. Obviously, these things kind of tend to have a breakthrough when there's a way to monetize them for an industry, which is also kind of, another side of it. But I'm very open. I think there are great, really, really good positive signs that are happening in this space, and in the kind of mental health, which isn't just putting a lid on or a patch over, but actually really evolving, really kind of opening up and learning, but it has to come with the therapy, right? It's not just having a psychedelic experience and then like telling stories about your psychedelic experience, but actually then how do I integrate this? How do I actually become more aware of my triggers, which is where we get stressed, right? How I'm responding to that, getting into our bodies. I think that is a very important trend, actually, where, I'm in technology. My whole background is technology and exponential technology, but I'm kind of concerned about AR, VR, for mental health, because it's actually taking you out of the body, and everything we know about healing from trauma, about reducing stress, about feeling better in our body, like you have to come into our bodies. It's like the number one. So anyone who's worked a lot in this field knows that you have to get into your body. So it's just bringing more of that awareness and moving with all these different tools in the right direction. Sometimes a person might need antidepressants. There's no shame around that. But as long as that is actually a way to get through a short period of time to move into where we can cope without it and learn the skills that we need, to cope with our lives and feel better and whatnot.
Well, Anna, I think that's all the time we have for this week's episode. I really appreciate you joining Lifts, and we welcome you back. We'd like to end every episode with one key takeaway of the week. So we're going to start with you. We've been talking a lot about mindfulness and wellness and stress relief, but if there's one thing that our audience can take away, what would that key takeaway be?
Well, I think I would have to say, look after your vagus nerve. I think that is definitely what's trending, and it's so fundamental to our health. And so in whatever way we learn to improve our stress resiliency, it is such a gift in life. It's just like having so much more capacity, being able to deal with things that happen. So I think, stress resiliency, which is good vagal nerve tone, is definitely a well worth pursuit.
And Matthew, I mean, it sounds like you may need to purchase a Sensate and see if it improves your sleep, but any key takeaways for you from this week?
Yeah, I think you've read my mind. The first thing I need to try one of these things out. I didn't know what my vagus nerve tone even was before this podcast, so I've definitely learned something. And it sounds like it's a thing that I need to be working out as much as my biceps. That's for sure. So we'll have to check out Anna afterwards to see how I can get myself fixed up with one.
And then we can. I think add me to that list too. I'd love to try it out. But I think that's right. A lot of this is around education. My key thing is, if you don't know, my key takeaway here for the audience is, if you don't know about your vagus nerve or the impact it has on you, go do it. Because I was not informed until I think late last year when I kind of read into it and understood the impact that it could have on you. It's a key part of your body. It needs to be trained also to your point, like anything else. And we never think about that. So, Anna, thank you so much for coming on. Matthew, any final words?
Yeah, thanks again. And if you didn't know anything about your vagus nerve or what it did, then I'm sure you've learned something. And share this with at least one or two people. We can get this information out to more. And thank you very much for listening.